The birth number is the energy with which a person comes into this life. It is the most emotional number, the most emotional characteristic. It's like, like a harpoon that pierces our energy field and accompanies us throughout our entire life. It's neither good nor bad. You could say it's the most narrowly focused characteristic, a pinpoint characteristic. It lasts longer. And while the year of birth is like the number of destiny, the main task, the direction we are moving in, the birth number is like the beginning of everything. If the beginning is not mastered correctly, this tale will drag on and accompany us throughout our entire life. And events will keep repeating and the characteristics will intensify both in a positive and a negative way throughout our whole life. The birth number, or as we call it, the personality number, reveals the main traits of character and how they influence our destiny. Different numbers give different strength, different energy, and of course, different temperament. If you were born on the 8th, 17th, 26th, 9th, 18th, 27th, or 22nd, you can be called a person of great potential. You are strategists. You start your life with a strong head start. That is, you are ready to move forward in life right away. Our whole life is a struggle. That's how these numbers can be characterized. First, it's a struggle with your parents to prove that you're an individual. Here I am, look at me, don't pressure me. And then it's a struggle with your bosses, because most bosses know and understand much less than you do. If you've experienced this situation, write about it in the comments. Are you the kind of person who, from birth, it's important for you to take a key position? You're someone who knows how to do things better and can do things better and often suffers because of it. You are uncompromising fighters for truth, for freedom, and for the happiness of the whole world. And I'll say it again, you are people of great potential, great opportunities, and big projects. It's very important for you to preserve the strength you were given at birth and to carry it through, to maintain and extend it throughout your entire journey. In other words, for your whole life, this very highest position. All these numbers we're talking about are at the level of the head. That is, our head looks, sees, hears, and speaks. In other words, all these functions have been developed in you since birth. And you need to learn to listen, to truly hear, to learn to see, to observe, and to learn to speak, to convey information. Then everything in your life will be perfect. Again, you have this from birth. A tremendous amount of energy and enormous possibilities. I consider these in my system of numerical psychoanalysis. In the course, we examine not only the numbers themselves, but also how the characteristics interact with each other. But we also examine the entire numerological chart, all the life stages, how they interact with each other, which stage a person is currently in, and what came before. As a result, the whole picture emerges and aligns completely, and it immediately becomes clear when and what needs to be done, what to pay attention to, and during which key period. And this makes it possible to build your life path smoothly and well, to timely switch to the right profession or the right state. If you were born on the 5th, 14th, 23rd, 7th, 16th, 25th, 11th, or 29th, then your birthday belongs to the sound level. That is, right here at the level of our intellect. And 29 and 11, that is right here, like a direct information channel with the outside world. These are excellent musicians, technologists, philosophers, psychologists, often psychologists. Especially people with sevens, these are the people who move our world forward, literature too. Everything related to nature, eco-friendly projects, that's your native element, tourism and all of that. When it comes to nature and the world around us, that's where you can truly succeed. Children with these characteristics are very sensitive to loud sounds. So if you have such children, try to surround them with kindness and care, and especially avoid arguing. They absorb everything instantly, so they often have ear problems like ear infections. That is to the point where children themselves develop earwax blockages or some other issue in order not to hear the outside world. Write in the comments if you remember your childhood. What was it like for you at that time? As a rule, these people adapt very easily to new realities and travel a lot. Most likely, you have had at least one major move in your life. Also, in order to truly succeed, it is important for you to learn to express your thoughts because, your thought process is very fast. You hear a lot, you absorb a lot of information. This is especially true for those born on the 7th, 11th, and also the 29th. But at the same time, the challenge is in conveying this information. How do you communicate it to other people? So this is an important point. Don't rush. Before you start speaking or make a decision, take a few seconds to think. This will allow the neural connections between your brain and your vocal cords, your speech apparatus, to connect quickly, and then, so to speak, your tongue will follow your brain. For example, in my numerology chart, I have all sevens, and for me, this is a big problem. My thought process is very fast, but sometimes it's very hard to express myself. That's why sometimes the phrases I say aren't entirely clear. Learn to use your thoughts and speech, and this will give you a very good step forward. And now I want to invite you to my numerology webinar, where I will explain how numbers work in your date of birth, how they work in the dates of your loved ones, what period you are currently in, what to pay attention to, and how to learn to read numbers through images. We have entered the third millennium, the millennium of imagery, and this method helps to develop our brain. And of course, I will talk about how you can help people by doing important and interesting work while also earning a good income. Be sure to register for the numerology webinar and attend. Those born on the 20th and 2nd belong to the visual level. These people possess strong analytical abilities. Many of them have foresight. For example, if people of the olfactory level, when we talked about the head, seem to know things in advance, then here people feel things. Many of them are good healers, good doctors. Many have prophetic dreams. By the way, if that's true for you, write about it in the comments. And of course, many of them create beauty around themselves. 2 is the eyes. The number 2 or 20 represents the eyes whose task is to learn, to see the good around them and accept the situation. That's why many work in the beauty industry or create beauty, make jewelry, or choose clothing. In other words, any industry related to the visual field is your natural element, as are medicine, healing, and working with energies. Those born on the 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 6th, and their derivatives, belong to the tactile level. This is our lower part, meaning the pelvis and legs. And here it is important, if you have such children, to ensure tactile contact in childhood. For such people, hugs are very important in childhood. In other words, it is very important that they are trusted and cared for, and then they will be able to carry this experience into their future relationships. If there was no such tactile experience in childhood, start developing it now. You know, many women, especially those born on the 1st, 19th, or 28th, were deprived of care in childhood, especially from their mothers. It's great if they did have it, but more often than not, they didn't, especially if their mothers were born on those dates. And then it becomes difficult for them to develop this sense of touch within themselves. One of the recommendations is to learn and not be afraid to interact with other people. And when it comes to choosing a profession at the beginning of their path, since the date of birth represents the first period of life, it's preferable to choose something that involves working with people. This could be coaching, it could be sports, or something else related to this. Very often it's acting, just very often. And here's another very important point. Since the beginning of your journey is rooted in the material realm, it's important for you to acquire a good material profession and succeed in it. And then move on to a managerial level. Why? Because if a person remains at the tactile level, they will simply fall into despondency. It will begin for them. They will regret not having realized their potential. Any number at the tactile level always looks upward. The goal is to climb up this pyramid, and of course, anything that works with numbers is suitable for this. In particular, accounting, which is why there are so many accountants here. Everyone who works in some kind of social structures, in housing offices, pension funds. Accountants probably make up about 50% of those who have the numbers 3 or 4. This is their natural element. They work directly with people. And for those with the number 3, it is also very important to combine their creative and intellectual sides. So if there is no creativity in your life, be sure to add it. 3 tips on how to use the best qualities of your birth number. How to use your priority direction. In particular, I have already told you a little about this. If your birth number belongs to the upper level of the head, then you already have an innate talent for management. You were born with it. Now it's important for you to simply determine the area where you will manage. This could be some kind of employment, but again, let's return to the fact that after 35, it will simply be difficult for you to do this. Therefore, most often, this is individual activity or a sphere of responsibility where no one else but you is involved. In other words, your area is where only you are responsible for what happens. Plus, very often, especially with the numbers 8 or 9, it's psychology, it's working with finances. With the number 22, well, of course, finance is your natural element here. So in any case, it's important for you to choose not just a profession, but a profession where you feel like a necessary person in this world. And in any case, you should be a director, at least for yourself. If you have the numbers we mentioned on the intellectual level, then here it's about technology. It's the thought process. It's all of that. As for music and musical education, there's work with speech, editing, literature, furniture, woodworking, manufacturing, and cottage construction. This also fits here. Why? Because it's wood, for example. If it's made of wood, then it's very good. This is manufacturing, furniture design. This is everything related to tourism, everything related to travel. History and archaeology also fit very well here. Many people study the underwater world because that's also a kind of history and it's also a journey. Everything connected with air is also very suitable. That's a pilot, a flight attendant. Right now, being a pilot is a very in-demand profession. Air traffic controllers as well. That's also quite a sought-after profession. So in any case, your profession requires quick reactions and the ability to process information. Music, mathematics, chemistry, it's all about working with information. Music and the exact sciences are essentially the same thing. They're just different sides of the same coin. If you have numbers from the visual series, as was already mentioned, the main direction is design. It's about beauty. This is exactly where you can combine colors everywhere. Anywhere you can bring order. Not necessarily cleaning or something like that, but arranging everything in its proper place. Things like feng shui or organizing spaces. That's also a good idea. And of course, you should draw. Photography is a perfect fit here. And everything related to artistic taste. Many will go into medicine because 2 is a refined energy, a healing energy, and indeed, you can really succeed there. In any case, your main task, your priority, is to learn to see beauty and to learn to organize other people around you. By the way, that's very good. People with 2s sell things, furniture. First of all, they like working with beautiful things. Secondly, they can clearly and effectively explain the priorities and benefits of a particular purchase. And for people with a tactile level, it's essential to learn and acquire a profession starting from the material world. This can be absolutely any profession. Here, it depends on the other numbers in the date of birth. For example, 1s are not just leaders, they are people who absolutely need to develop their intellectual level. They move forward through their intellect and their organizational abilities. Here we also have innovators and technologies. And by the way, science works very well here, especially if there are also 4s, 1s with 4s. That is, science generally goes very well. People with 3s, as we've already mentioned, are more creative. Here, design can also fit, especially with 6s. With 6s, it's even more about fashion design. People with 3s usually choose, as a rule, work with numbers or, as we mentioned, work in government institutions. But then you still need to develop your other abilities, which are indicated by your birth month according to all its characteristics. We have a video about this on our channel. And as for people with 4s and 6s, here they can be fitness trainers or those who work with the body. This could also include massage therapists. These could be rehabilitation specialists, athletes, sports massage therapists, sports rehabilitation experts, or even further along those lines. Restorative practices, anything related to the body at the beginning of your journey, all of this is ideal for you. Later on, you can move on to creating your own systems or transition into management. Of course, there are also downsides at every level. At the head level, there are negatives too. The idea that I can do anything is a sign of great arrogance. We need to get rid of arrogance at the intellectual level. A very fast mind can be a problem, as well as fears about making decisions. This happens quite often. And as a rule, such people live with their heads in the clouds. They often have their heads in the clouds. So what is needed? You need to ground yourself a little. The problem at the visual level is being overly suspicious or anxious. It's all about what people say about me and what they will say. But it's fine as it is. Well, it seems we've created some kind of image for ourselves here and we're comfortable with it. But you definitely need to learn to move on, to move forward. And the problem at the tactile level is really just apathy. I simply don't want anything at all. I just go to work every day. And honestly, that's more than enough for me. Often, such an attitude towards life leads to health problems. And that's the first thing that affects people at the tactile level. It's the legs, gynecology, the spine. These are the things that start to fail first, or rather give the first warning signs. So if you notice you have this problem, just reconsider it. And that will be your important step towards success. Today, we have determined that your birth number is the key to your success. It's like a push, a kickstart for your whole life. If you want to know more about your date of birth, about the numerical psychoanalysis that I teach, of course, come to my training. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Share this video on social media. And of course, be sure to register for the numerology webinar and attend it. Subscribe to the channel and to our other resources. All the links are in the description of this video. Well, it's time for me to say goodbye. See you next time.